Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. I'm on for my second tutorial video for Beebeecraft using the awesome goodies that I got this time around. So last time we used the dies and the stamps that I received. This time I want to use the stencils. So I did get a pack of stencils. I think there were 8 in the pack. But the link will be down below of the cake making or the cake decorating stencils. So I'm going to have fun using those ones on my gel plate. See what I can do. And then there was this 12 pack of wildflower stencils, which is really cool. So I don't know if I'll get around to using all 12 of them today, but I'd like to just use some of those with some inks, I think, and see what we can do with them. So lots and lots of fun. So the link to Beebeecraft, of course, is down below, as are the links to the individual products that I've used for this tutorial and the previous one. There'll also be links to the previous tutorial and my unboxing if you want to go back and check them out at all. Always lots and lots of fun. So we will get on with it and we will see what sort of a mess I can make with my oxides, I think. I'm just using copy paper for my gel print session today. And I've got one of the cake decorating stencils here. And I've just laid it down onto my big gel plate. And I'm using a sponge there just to apply some, it's a light green paint in the stencil pieces I want to show up. And I'm just turning it around and getting some of the pattern on the other side of my gel plate. So I let that dry in between, and then I'm putting a layer of paint over the top to help me lift the print off. So I've put 2 different colours there, and I'm just using my brayer to carefully spread that out. Then grab my copy paper and I just press it down onto my gel plate there. And then I let that dry as well before I lift it. So just pull it up from the corner and there's the print there. So I'm trying again now with a darker green first. I don't do gel printing very often, so it takes a while for me to get into the groove. I should do a whole lot when I pull it out. I'm just doing a pattern in the middle there of the plate. Again, I let that dry. Then I decide to go in with another stencil with my cream paint and just add some design from that stencil on either side. The fun thing is you never know what you're going to get. I suppose if you've practiced a lot and used the same paints, you have an idea of what it'll look like, but I never know what I'm going to get. And I can't say it all worked the way I wished it would, but you can always add to them and change them. And they're great fun to use, the gel prints, ripping them up and using them in collage and page decorations. So again, I let my paint dry and I'm putting another layer over the top here. 2 colours again. Spreading it out with the brayer. Press my paper down firmly and then I leave that to dry before I pull it up. So I've got this stencil that looks like a net pattern. So I've just put it across in one direction. Just sponging some brown paint on. then I pick it up and just move it in the other direction. So I'm just using the acrylic paints that I've picked up from the second-hand shop here. So there's different brands and different thicknesses and that. So I like the way that net pattern came out on that one. So now I decide I'll try spreading the paint with my brayer on the stencil. So it uses a bit more paint for this, but I want 3 bright colours to run across in sort of stripes across this stencil here. Your gel printed pages are really good for collage backgrounds as well. So I'm using my sponge just to wipe off some of the excess paint that was off the edges that I didn't want. So once my brayered paint dries, I add the yellow paint over the top. Then before that dries, I stick my paper on. This one turned out quite nice. I think this is one of my favourite stencils out of the ones that I got. Nice geometric pattern. So I'm using light grey, I think it is, paint there. Looks like white, but I'm pretty sure it's a light grey. And I'll move that over so I can get pattern on the other side. Takes a bit of rolling to get the paint in all the little holes there. So again, I let it dry in between and put the top coat on. So yeah, that one pulled really nicely. I think it's the paint. I could see that sort of bubbling when it sort of sits there a bit, so you get those bubbles in your print, but that just adds a nice texture. So again, I'm brayering the paint into this stencil. So it's a lot of fun doing this, but as I said, when you pull all the paints and the plate out, it's a good idea to have heaps of papers and do a whole pile at once. Unfortunately, I didn't have time for that. But I am looking forward to doing it again soon. And yeah, love that pattern as well. Comes up really nice. So this is a really cool stencil. So I thought I'd give the pattern on this a go, and I thought I'd do 2 colours, mix them in a bit. Now, some of my paints tend to take forever to dry, and I tried to be patient, but there were a few of my prints where I didn't let the paint dry enough underneath, I think. And this was one of those. So I did let it dry a while, but it just seemed to take forever. And I think I can see it spreading a bit there. But I can still see a bit of a pattern underneath, so I thought it would still be okay. but when I pull it up you can't really see the pattern, so we'll do something with that afterwards. Still a really nice background piece. So I decide that I will run some more paint over the stencil onto the gel plate. And just get that pattern back on there. Then I'm sticking the paper over it again just to pick up the pattern from the stencil. So now I'm on to using the wildflower stencils, and I'm using my oxides, my distress oxides for this. I'm just using some green and blue here for the background. I'm not very good with my blending, so it's not very even, but that's all right. I chose one of the beautiful stencils, put that on top. Then for this one, I thought I would simply just grab some of my black oxide and stencil the flowers on with that. And then I just grab some water and tap it on. That just activates the oxides a bit. So I'm doing another background here and just using my brushes again to put the 3 colours on. Now for these wildflower stencils, I'm using art diary paper. It's just a little bit more robust than my normal copy paper, especially because I'm adding water to some of these. So for this one, I decided to do the background, put the stencil on, and then spray water over the top. But the big water bottle sprays way too much water, so it ended up just a big blobby mess. But again, we'll do something with that afterwards. So I've done another background here in the same manner again with black and purple. And I've got my fine spraying water bottle here, and this is much better. So you can see the flowers, a lot more the detail of them using the finer spray there. So I wanted to try something. I've seen people rub their ink pads over their stencil before. I didn't necessarily want to do that, so I thought I would just use my blending brushes to apply the oxide to the stencil. So I'm just covering the stencil in the different colours to try something. It took a bit of ink to have it come up as much as I wanted it to. So when I've finished that, I put it down and then spray a fine mist of water over the top of that to activate the oxides. And then I place my paper on top of it, lift my stencil off, and there you can see the inks are on the paper and there's white space where the stencil holes are. So for this one, I'm just going simple and doing the leaves in the green and then doing a few different colours for the flowers. So it's just on a plain white background. It's really pretty. Now we're back to fixing up some of the ones that I wasn't too happy with. So I'm using the stencil again, the cake decorating stencil here, and my black Oxide ink, just to add some more of the pattern on the blanker part there. Because I did really like this background and I love the pattern of the stencil, so I just wanted to fill it in a little bit more. So now I want to fix up this wildflower one where I've sprayed too much water and ended up all blobby because it spread out underneath. So what I've done is put the same stencil over the top there. And I've got my white Signo pen and I'm just tracing with the pen inside the stencil cutouts there. So I had a lot of fun with the stencils that I got from Beebeecraft. So I've got this set of, I think it's 12 flower or wildflower stencils, which are awesome. I wish I could have used all of them for you, but it would take too long, so I just did a few. Also, I decided to come down with a cold. So I thought I'd better get this done and put up so I can rest a little bit. I also use this awesome set of cake decorating stencils on my gel plate. I had heaps of fun with those as well. I really love the designs on these. And the size of them as well for stenciling on journal pages. Same with these, the size is great because it basically covers an A5 page. So much fun. So we'll see what we've got. I will start with, I'll start with the wildflower ones. So I tried different techniques, definitely no expert at this or ink blending or anything, but I did use my Distress Oxides. So this one I did the blended background, laid the stencil down and then sprayed some water. And I like it, it's very subtle. You can see the pattern of the flowers there. It's like a shadow almost, very subtle. I do like that technique. Now this one I think was one where I used my blending brushes to apply ink to the stencil, then sprayed the stencil with water and then put the paper down on top of the stencil to pick up the ink. So the pattern wasn't very clear. It did work. It's got the white there. I think this is the first one that I tried to spray the water through the stencil. And I was using a bigger spray bottle and it was too much water, so it just sort of moved around under the stencil and created these big blobby bits, so you couldn't really see the detail of the flowers. So I ended up laying the same stencil over the top, just using my white Signo pen to trace within the stencil to get the pattern of the flowers on top. And I quite like that as well. The background looks really neat. This one was a blended background and then I did some splatters of water just to get the oxidization going. And I also went over the stencil with my black Distress Oxide. So that's quite nice. And then I just did one on plain paper and used different coloured oxides. I really like that too. So these would be great to cut down for tags, to put on card bases, that sort of thing. So really nice. I thought it'd be great just to make some bits up that I can use in projects in the future. All ready to go. So lots of fun. And then with the gel plate, we have all of these ones. So we started with some with the fern style stencil. So what I did was just use a sponge to dab paint into the stencil, then take the stencil up. And then when that was all dry, I put some paint over the top with my brayer, smoothed it out a bit, and then lifted that. So we've got this one from that lot. And this one, which didn't turn out too well, but I really love the background. And this one come up real nice. And I did also do another stencil, which is again really subtle on the bases, on the long edges there. Could also go in and doodle on these and that if you wanted to as well, but I do quite like this. And with these, I'd probably rip them up and use bits and pieces of them in projects. So I like this one. So initially the stencil didn't show very well when I pulled this print. I think what happened was I didn't wait for my paint to dry enough. Some of the paint's a lot wetter than others. So what I did was redo the stencil on my gel plate and put the coloured background on to pick up the stencil there. And then I went over the top with my oxides to add the black of the print there. Love that stencil, really nice. I love this one. Again, some of my paint wasn't completely dry, so it did pick up and put the pattern around the place, but I actually quite like the way that's turned out. Definitely be experimenting with that one a bit more. You could shade some of the pattern in and give it a 3D effect in that as well, but I do really like that one. So this one is like a Nat pattern, that one, and I crossed it that way and then crossed it that way and stenciled over the top. Now with some of these I used my sponge, and that was quite light, and then other ones I braided the paint into the stencil, and that had a lot heavier load of paint then. But with all of them I did the pattern from the stencil down first, let it dry, and then added paint to pick it up with. So there's this one where I did the 3 different colours there. And then we've got this one. Also makes such a difference with the paints you've got. A lot of mine are from the secondhand shop and they're all different brands. So you don't get that continuity that you would if you had all the same brand and that. Might have to work on buying a set of the same sort of paints to use. And some are thinner and some are thicker. But yeah, love that one. I think it's like Parker Tree. I really like the colours in that one as well. So that is it for my second video using the awesome stencils from Beebeecraft. So thank you so much, Beebeecraft. I had heaps of fun with all the products this time round. So the links below will be to my previous video and my unboxing, so you can see what else I got and made. There's also links to Beebeecraft shop as well as individual links to the products that I used. So if you see something you really like, you can just go grab it. There's also my coupon code, which is NAT10. If you use that upon checkout, you can get 10% off of any orders with Beebeecraft. So take care of yourselves, be good, and I will see you again soon. Bye.